month has passed us by. Batman is right around the corner. But today we're going to stop and rank all 5 February movies that I saw from the worst to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of all the February movies that you saw. My list isn't the right list, it's just my list, and I would love to see yours. Also, if I missed anything that you think I would actually like, let me know about it down below in the comment section, and let's get started. In last place, Moonfall, the latest film where Roland Emmerich blows up the world, this time using the moon. It follows the exact template of all of his other movies where he's blown up the world, where there's layered storytelling, where there's the government plot, there's the former brilliant person pulled back in, there's the person that discovers something that the government wasn't able to discover, there's the road trip aspect to it. He is following the Roland Emmerich playbook for blowing up the earth, and as always, you have a number of movie stars sprinkled throughout the movie, dropping a bunch of fun little one-liners in between the parts where millions of people die, horrible deaths, and all of the calamity. It is Roland Emmerich, the movie, here on display. And it's easily the dumbest of all of these movies. Wasn't boring. I was engaged from beginning to end. I never was like checking my watch. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's just unbelievably stupid. In particular, because this movie leans so hard into a plot twist in the second half where you're just like, wow, you really are leaning into a totally different direction for this story than I was expecting. Like, I went into this movie and I actually said to the person I went to go see it with, I bet I can predict exactly what this movie's going to be. I bet I could write my review for this movie right now. And I was 75% correct. 25%, I was totally wrong because it just goes so hard on this twist and turn. That's also a really stupid twist and turn. The movie feels a little bit, this isn't the case at all, but it feels like Roland Emmerich read kind of this sci-fi novel, and then he went, I could turn that into one of my movies, and converted this dense mythology and tale into a 2-hour movie. That's not what happened. So just instead, he just chose to write this story with this unexplored mythology where it seems like any other plot, in light of everything implied by the film, would be a better movie than what this movie is. But like I said, I had fun with it. It's stupid. It's in that Taco Bell category. It's not a great Taco Bell movie, but it's like a bad but entertaining movie. That's why I have my Taco Bell scores, and that's very firmly what this movie was to me. In fourth place, Death on the Nile, the latest Kenneth Branagh adaptation of an Agatha Christie novel and the follow-up to Murder on the Orient Express. And much like the first movie, it's a star-studded film based off classic source material. There's plenty of production value on display here, but there's also just feels like there's a little bit of magic missing. It's tough to exactly pinpoint why it doesn't feel like these movies pay off or work all that great for me. On paper, amazing source material. Kenneth Branagh, world-class established talent. You've got plenty of star power, and in particular, Kenneth Branagh in the lead is just bringing all sorts of fun, quirky charm to the film. But the way it plays out, both of them kind of played out this way, is once things get going, it's like 45 minutes straight of the lead character just interviewing each of the other characters in the movie. And maybe that works better in the source material or it's played out differently, but in these movies, it's just an odd way to tell a story. And in the case of this movie, it takes a long time for the film to get going. It's like an hour before the actual death on the Nile occurs. And so I enjoyed it enough. There was a lot of things I did enjoy about it. It's also a movie I wasn't necessarily bored by, but you could feel how there could be a better version of this. And in particular, in an era where it seems like there's 2 kind of whodunit franchises. Well, 3 if you throw Scream in the mix, but you've got the Knives Out from Rian Johnson, and you've got the Kenneth Branagh, Agatha Christie adaptations. Knives Out is leaving a much better mark. It's fresh, it's more energetic. Both of them are star-studded, both of them very much whodunits, both have twists and turns. But these ones from Kenneth Branagh just feel a little bit more like by the numbers, well made, a lot of production value, a lot of star power, but not a lot of spark, not a lot of freshness to it. In third place, Uncharted, and as a point of reference, I have played all of the Uncharted games. I actually binged through the entire series whenever COVID lockdowns first happened in 2020. That was when I first played through them, and I binged through them very quickly, posted my ranking of the games when that happened, and ever since then, I've been very nervous about this project because both Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg feel horribly miscast in their roles in this material. The Uncharted games are inherently cinematic and easy to translate to the big screen because the way the story is told. It's a fast-moving adventure. There are character arcs. There's twists, turns. All the stuff that you want in a movie, they're already kind of there. And so as soon as you kind of get the characters wrong, you miss out on something. So finally saw the movie about a week ago, and essentially it was what I expected it to be, which was a fun, slick, star-studded blockbuster that missed the mark on being an Uncharted adaptation. In particular, Mark Wahlberg. When you're watching the film, I don't feel like Tom Holland was as miscast watching the film because Nathan Drake doesn't necessarily have as distinctive things to be as far off as with the Sully character, but he's certainly not who I would have cast, and I think there are pieces missing in the portrayal. And it's hard to not see Peter Parker just on this adventure. Like, why is Peter Parker a bartender? Why is Peter Parker a globetrotter? Like, it's tough to not see Peter Parker when you see Tom Holland in this type of role, especially when it's PG-13. And then Mark Wahlberg is just horribly miscast, and he's not doing anything to transform himself. He's playing the Mark Wahlberg persona, which has a distinct cadence. It has a specific way that he delivers lines. It has an attitude. It has a vibe, and it is not at all the Sully character from the games. And it doesn't feel at all like a younger version of Sully from the games. And so I had fun with the movie. I thought the movie stars themselves could be fun in the film. So definitely a little bit too slick, a little bit too produced in certain ways. And when instead of doing any stunt work, we're on green screens and CGI characters with some dangling out of planes and stuff like that, I think you do lose a little bit something. But it's still, you just simple popcorn adventure film. I'll also say this about it, that when you take that the Uncharted games are inherently basically Indiana Jones as a video game, and the characters themselves are what distinguished it from just being a knockoff of Indiana Jones. So when you get the characters wrong, you just lose the thing that makes it distinct, and you're left with generic adventure film with movie stars. Movie stars are fun to watch. Adventure is an inherently fun genre, but there's nothing that this movie delivers that's new and fresh to the genre. That's kind of what's missing here. That's the problem here. There's nothing new and fresh to it. I had fun. Nothing new. Our runner-up, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is when you know you've had a weird month at the movies, when Texas Chainsaw Massacre is my number 2 of the month. And honestly, a lot of people hated this movie. Getting on Twitter is kind of a strange series of tweets, as well as on Facebook, of like people like, oh yeah, plenty of carnage candy, and the other half like, that was the worst horror movie I've seen in 25 years. Those are like the 2 responses to the film. And it's basically by default runner-up this month. I enjoyed it for what it was, which is a Fede Alvarez produced story from thriller with a guy with a chainsaw slaughtering people. And I like the Fede Alvarez close quarters thrillers. His brand, whether he directs it, writes it, produces it, there's an energy that he brings where I seem to like them more than other people. I liked Don't Breathe 2 more than most other people. And then as a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film, this movie puts the massacre in Texas Chainsaw Massacre with this one sequence. But there's just a lot of just simple setup payoff where the movie introduces an item, specifically some keys that they need to get a hold of, and then once they have them, you know the place they need to get to. So it just sets everything up really nicely to have the thrills, to have the payoff, lots of brutal massacre moments. Hey, what's up? Did you want to be in the video?
I want a bottle.
Oh, you wanted a bottle. Here's a bottle.
That's not a bottle.
Well, that's a bottle right there. Oh, you wanted a bottle for you.
Yeah.
Did your mother fall asleep?
No, that's a wait.
Well, I'm shooting a video right now.
Aw.
Yeah, and I can be done and get it for you in just a second, but I can come down in about 3 minutes. Well, close the door, please. There's just a lot of simple things in the movie that worked very effective for me. Even little character things. It's not a character movie with big arcs or anything like that, but they establish some detail about the worldview and past experience of our lead characters. Therefore, when they make certain choices as you go throughout the film, it matters and it's significant to what's taking place. And of course, the simple fun of Leatherface slaughtering a bunch of people with a chainsaw, as well as other things all along the way. Now, I'm brand new to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films. I watched all of them for the very first time over the last 6 weeks. So I'm not a purist. I don't have a deep knowledge. I think certainly making Leatherface into a slasher and not part of this quirky, weird, bizarre, horrific family, you miss something out because of that. But as someone that's just new to these movies, I liked what I got. Once again, it's only number 2 on the list because there wasn't a lot of competition this month, but it is number 2. But coming in at number 1, Jackass Forever. And much like with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it is here essentially by default because there wasn't a lot of great stuff that came out this month. Just a bunch of kind of mediocre franchise, big studio productions that were enjoyable enough but didn't leave a particularly big mark. Thus, when you get an R-rated comedy that's so outrageous, so vulgar, so insane that you laugh from beginning to end, it's the movie this month that made the biggest mark. It's just a series of pranks. There's no plot. There's no character development. But it absolutely made me laugh out loud, potentially more than any movie since I've started my YouTube channel. I was uncomfortable. I was squirming. Sometimes I had to look away. I will be mortified by a few things that I saw in this movie for the rest of my life, but it made me laugh. And that's what its job was, to leave a mark, make a ripple, make a splash, and get me to laugh. It did its job. It won't be in my top 10. It's not a contender for best of the year. It's not an amazing film. It's not cinematic art. It is a piece of entertainment, and it entertained. And it accomplished its goal better than any other movie that I saw in the month of February. Therefore, of all the movies I saw in February that were brand new releases, Jackass Forever comes in at number 1. If you enjoyed this video, you can check out my other 2022 movie reviews in that playlist right over there. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much. And I gotta go make the baby a bottle.